In this video, we will see how to get started with running deep learning experiments on a cloud GPU such as EC2 GPU instance of Amazon AWS. Specifically, we will see what are the different GPU options, how to configure and launch a GPU instance, and finally, how to connect to it from our laptop or a desktop. Once we do that, as an example, I'll use the same code which I discussed in my previous video on transfer learning and run that code on a cloud GPU to train a CNN based image classifier. So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, what is EC2? EC2 stands for Elastic Compute Cloud, which is basically a web-based service provided by Amazon for cloud computing, and it allows full customization of compute resources such as GPU as per our requirement. To get started, the first thing we need to do is go to aws.amazon.com and we have to click on this sign in to the console. So if you do not have an account yet, you need to first create a new AWS account. This is a fairly simple process, so I'm not going into that. And yeah, we need to have a credit card to get started. So having created the account, you have to log into it by providing the email address and the security code. And then the password. So once we sign in to the website, we see this AWS management console, and if we click on this all services button, we see a bunch of services of Amazon AWS. What we are really interested is in the compute resources, which is here, the EC2 instances for GPU. So after we click on EC2, we can see what are the different instances which we have created. Right now we do not have any instances, so we will do that shortly. So before that, we need to select a proper region according to your place. So right now it is set to Tokyo, and once we do that, we have to create an instance by clicking on this launch instances button. So this is a 7-step process, out of which the step 1 and step 2 are very important. So we will go to that, we will see that in detail. So step 1 is choosing of Amazon machine image. So there are different options which are available here, and specifically for deep learning experiments, there is a special AMI which are created which we can use directly. So we type deep learning and we see that there are different options. So we will use Ubuntu 18.04 version, and we can see that there are different NVIDIA CODNN and all the drivers are already pre-installed and kept ready for us. So we just have to select it and proceed to step 2. So this is a very important step because we need to select a proper GPU as per our requirement, and we need to be careful while choosing the GPU because each GPU has different cost. So we need to be aware of the cost while choosing the GPU. So we will see that in detail. So there are different instance families. So to know more, we can go to this website aws.amazon.com/ec2. So here we can see what are the different instance types. So if we click on that, we see that there are different categories. So there are instances for general purpose, instances for compute optimized, and so on. So what we are interested is in accelerated computing, which is basically a GPU. So if we click on that, we see a bunch of options. So for example, P4 has 8 GPUs and the memory is huge. But to get started, we do not need such a very high configuration. So we will select what is called G4DN, so which is a very simple GPU which has only one GPU and 16 GB of memory. So it is enough to get started. If there is a requirement for more memory, you can select the appropriate GPU. So this is the GPU. So now we need to see the costing. So to do that, we can click on this pricing button. So we have two pricing options. One is on demand and spot instances. So on demand is basically preferred in cases where we do not want any interruption, and whereas spot instances are basically spare instances which Amazon allows to use at a very reduced price. But there is a drawback in this. So if there is a demand for on-demand instances, your allotted spot instance will be taken away from you. So there is no guarantee that you will get uninterrupted instance. So it is in the case of uninterrupted requirement, we need to select on-demand instances. So let's see what are the pricing for on-demand instances. So to look at the prices, we need to select the correct region and then the instance type, which in this case accelerated computing. So it filters out the unnecessary instances. So if you sort it based on the price, we see that so the first three options are basically not NVIDIA GPUs, so we cannot use it for machine learning experiments. So the only NVIDIA based GPU is G4DN X large, and the starting cost is $0.71. So this is the list pricing for a GPU which has 16 GB of memory. So we will use this instance in our setup. So instance family is G4DN X large. So next is configure instance details. So here we can keep everything default, so we do not change much to start with. So next is storage. This can be kept as defaults. Add tags is also okay. Configure security group. So security group is important because we do not want anyone to connect to our instance. So we will create a new security group, and since we will use SSH, we will select SSH and we will say that only my IP will be able to connect to this instance. So this is a layer of security which we set in this step 6, and having done that, we proceed next. This is the final step where we can see the details, and if it is okay, we can click on launch. So next is we need to have a key pair when we connect it using SSH. So we need to, if we do not have a key pair, we have to create a new key pair, and for this case I already have it, so I will say choose an existing key pair and select it from the options and click on launch instances. So we can see that our instances are now launching, and we can check the status here. So it is in the running state, and to connect to it, we have to click on this button checkbox and click on connect. So here we can see a list of instructions. So the first thing we need to do is go to open terminal and go to the location where we have the key pair file. So if you see, I have it stored here. So ubuntu aws.pem file. So this we have to download when we create the key pair for the first time. So I had created it earlier, so I already downloaded it and kept it here. So once we do that, we have to run this command, so which is basically change of permissions to access this file, and then finally the final SSH command, which we can directly copy and paste here. Type yes, and then we are in. So right now we have connected to a GPU instance of Amazon AWS. So if you see NVIDIA SMI, we can see that a CUDA version is already installed, and we are using Tesla T4 GPU having 15 GB of GPU memory. So with this, we have configured and launched a GPU instance and connected to it. So now we will see how we can run the code to train our CNNs. So we will use the same code, transfer learning code, and to download the code you can copy this HTTPS link and type git clone the URL, then it will copy this code here. So then we can go to transfer learning tutorial. So here there is transfer learning.py file, train.py, and the other files. So now we need to copy the dataset. You can download the dataset by going to this link. I will provide the link in the description, and you can download it by clicking on this download button. I have already downloaded it and kept it in this location. So we will get a archive.zip file, and we need to copy this zip file to the cloud GPU. So to do that, we will open terminal and use scp command, scp -i the path to the PEM file and the name of the file and the location, and /home/ubuntu. Okay, so now the dataset has been copied, and we can see the dataset here. So it is placed in this location. So let me move the file here. So now we will unzip it. -d. The destination is data folder. So we are extracting all the images in the data folder. And once we do that, we just have to before that we need to install Pytorch. So to do that, we have to go to pytorch.org and install. So we will use pip, and the CUDA version is 10.2, and pip install this. Okay, so now the Pytorch is installed, and to run the main file, we first need to have the path file as I described in my previous video. To do that, we need to run this generate pathfile.py file, which will create the test paths and train paths.txt. If you see the file, you can see the label and the path file, label and the required path. So having done that, we are all set, and to run the code, we have to type python 3 transfer learning.py. So with this, the training of the CNN has started, and I'll pause the video and come back once it is trained. So as we can see, we have trained it for around 3 epochs, and the test accuracy has already crossed 90%. So if we train more, this will further improve. So since the purpose of this video is to get started with deep learning on cloud, so I'll stop this code here. And yes, before we close, we need to do one last step, which is very important, and which is we have to click on the instances and click on terminate instance. So don't ever forget this step. After you are done, you must terminate the instance, otherwise it will be charged. So don't forget to do that. And yes, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comment section, and if you like it, please press the like button. And yeah, thank you very much for watching the video.